everyone, and thank you for dialing in to our session this morning. My name is Misha. Some of you may recognise me already, and this may be the second webinar that you're attending as part of our series with Mattioli Woods. If not, and you would like to refer back to the one that we did last week, please let me know and I can send you the recording over for that. But I'm joined here by Hannah and Adrian this morning, who are going to be talking you through the secrets of a great benefits package for the mid-career. The session again is being recorded, so we will follow up with the recording after the session today. Any questions, please fire them through, and we will have time for either a question and answer session, or we'll answer them as we're going through. So I'm going to hand over to Hannah and Adrian now for them to talk you through.
Thank you very much, Misha. Hello, good morning. Welcome to this webinar facilitated by PayCheck, your trusted payroll bureau, and delivered by us at Mattioli Woods, and we are employee benefit experts. This is the second of 3 short 20-minute webinars where we'll be exploring the secrets of a great benefit package. The first webinar looked at themes which are important to employees in their early career. If you have missed that and want a copy, either email Misha directly or pop a note in the chat. The chat is anonymous, so by all means pop any questions through in the chat bar too throughout the seminar. This is the second seminar, and we're going to be looking at benefits that are important to employees in their mid-career. Once again, during these times where employees are finding it tricky to recruit the ideal candidates and where employees are facing spiralling salary competition while trying to retain your best people, ensuring your benefit package is relevant for employees entering into the workplace and then progressing through it will place you and place employers at the front of the line with their staff. We do understand that getting the pay levels right is essential. And it's an essential part of the total reward package. If the pay isn't right, no amount of extra employee benefits will necessarily resolve that issue. However, in our experience, employers willing to treat employees as individuals and cater for their needs sets those employees apart from the rest of the market. So your speakers today are myself, Hannah Dolding. I'm a senior employee benefit consultant from Mattioli Woods. My role for the last 20 years or so is to help employers tailor benefit packages all the way from sort of voluntary arrangements through to taking a benefit communications online, putting in place engaging options through to the more sort of traditional pension and wellbeing benefits. I'm joined again today by Adrian Firth. He is our Mattioli Woods in-house expert in relation to financial education. He's got a huge amount of experience in terms of engaging employees at different life stages, helping them understand issues they face and supporting them with questions regarding benefit packages and broader financial matters. Mattioli Woods, we're a national employee benefit and wealth management firm. We've got 800 staff across the UK. During the session, we'll be referring to anecdotal comments from a small population of our colleagues in their different life stages when asked about what's important to them. It's broadly intended to add colour to the secrets we will share about great benefit package. Whilst we appreciate interviewing employees in a financial firm may not represent the entire population of workers in the UK or indeed your firm, we have been thrilled by common themes which came through, which do reflect similar comments from our clients' employees as well. Now, as I said, our discussion will take about 20 minutes and then we'd like to open up the call to questions. So please feel free, as I said, to pop any questions in the chat as we go through. And once again, this all will be anonymous. So in preparation for the webinar, as I said, we interviewed a population of 20 or so staff in order to see if there are any commonality of opinion, as well as understanding really the diversity of comments, which echo the experience we have when sharing thoughts with our corporate client employees. When considering what employees want or need, there are 3 simple questions to ask them about their views on benefits. And this is how we approached our own colleagues in each of the benefit interviews. Now, before we go into the results, have a think about these 3 questions in front of you, Put yourself into the mindset of someone in their mid-career. That may indeed be you. These are generally skilled workers. They're demanding higher pay. They have higher expectations as they progress through their careers with you. They may well be very ambitious. They may well have families that they're caring for, or even elderly parents that they're looking after in terms of their own personal lives. Now, the first question we asked is, what is important to you in terms of the benefit package you currently have? And once again, the purpose of this question is to get employees thinking about their current situation. The next question is, have things changed in the past few years or even pre-pandemic? Now, this is an important question to establish whether there have been any changes since perhaps a benefit package was being put in place. Certainly, if they haven't been reviewed in a long time, asking employees to focus on their own situation and whether they think their own opinion has changed helps set a really good starting point for discussion and for review. The final question we asked is, what do you think an employer of choice should be providing? Now, again, a lot of our clients shy away from an open invite question. But by asking this open question, you may well get some truly common themes that you can work with and incredible intel in terms of current thinking. Now, have a think about that, and by all means, pop your responses in the chat. And what we will do now is go forward into the first question. Now, in understanding our anecdotal research, and let me just pop the slide across. With our mid-career demographic, protection against things going wrong came through really strongly with all our participants. Common themes were about the more traditional style of employee benefits. Life cover, income protection, private medical were outlined as important to all who contributed, although the underlying reasons for these were different across the population. There is a greater concern in this population about the state of the NHS and therefore a strong desire for healthcare or private medical cover, which addresses acute medical conditions, i.e. when the sort of wheels fall off health-wise. This is generally a population of employees who are providing skilled services to you as the employer, and therefore making sure they are fit, healthy, and able to perform their role ensures the engine room of your business is running smoothly. Other contributors noted they're worried about the health of their family members, and therefore we see a desire to add family members to the private medical arrangements if possible. Savings are also important, and we do start to see pensions mentioned in this demographic, whereas they were less relevant in the early career when compared to short-term savings. Now, Adrian, as a financial wellbeing specialist, as you are, when you're conducting your workshops, what does this mid-career demographic share with you in terms of their worries?
Well, I think first of all, just to introduce the group of being like between 30-ish and 50-ish years of age. I think they've actually learned a lot about personal finances by this point, because when we were looking at the early career people, we were teaching them the things that they didn't learn in schools and colleges and universities, whereas this group have learned from the mistakes because they've made some, hopefully, and that they've started to, get more of a handle on their finances and have a balance between saving and borrowing, having a balance between short-term and long-term financial objectives. But they are a generation that are really, not everyone, but some of them are financially challenged. And as you just briefly mentioned before, we are talking about a group that have got a generation living above them and probably got a generation living below them as well. So they've got a number of things going on, which adds additional pressure to not just working and being paid and their total reward statement, but also caring. And that's why insurance tends to be something which is really of interest to this particular group. So there is a lot of pressure on their finances. Sometimes they do feel a little bit squeezed, but having said that, they are interested in more technical information to do with products.
Okay, and what do you think about their priorities and their individual preferences?
Well, I think they've got varying priorities, and there's no one size fits all, because some might have caring requirements and some might not. Some might have children and some might not. So they're really a varied group. And when we design and we deliver financial education, we want to touch on a number of different topics to try and engage all of them. They are interested in things like life insurance, income protection, health benefits. I know private medical insurance can be very expensive, but there are some kind of mid products, if you like health cash plans. And again, they understand the basics of how those products work, but maybe not so much on the more technical aspects of them. So if we go into a little bit more detail, then they'll have a better understanding of that. And all of them, and generally all of the people in their mid-career, do know that they're going to have to look after themselves later on in life, because they can't rely on the state for their income. So they genuinely are interested in not just, pensions and the company pension scheme and saving, but the products that complement that as well when they get through to retirement. So things like ISAs as well. But they know they can't rely on the state for their income later in life.
Yeah, okay. So I think finally, what type of benefits have the greatest positive impact on their lives in mid-career?
Well, again, we're going back to the basics of insurance and health and pensions, but they are the foundations on which they will look at their total reward package, and certainly be less likely to move employers as you would be in your early career, because they know the grass isn't green on the other side. So with things like life assurance, which they may have in place, we really need to get the message across to them that this may be a benefit that's paid for by your company, but more of the technical details surrounding, like, well, if you have a mortgage and you're buying life insurance with your mortgage, it might be cheaper to buy it by increasing the level of cover that you've got with your employer. And things like private medical insurance is still, well, it was very expensive, but less used pre-pandemic. But it has come back, and employers, I don't think, can afford to, very widely cover lots and lots of employees for private medical insurance. But there are those halfway house products like health cash plans. And again, where they're in place, they understand how a health cash plan works, but we need to go through the more technical details with them. Like, do you know you've got a virtual GP service that goes with it, where you can speak to a GP 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? And so they are looking at protection, they are looking at insurance and health, and incorporating pensions and savings for the future. So those two categories of insurance and saving are really predominantly the products that they're looking for.
Yeah, okay. And I do want to make you all aware that obviously it is important not to generalize too much. And the best way really to make sure employees feel looked after is that there are options that they can tailor to their own sort of work-life balance benefits, to their own circumstances. And perhaps most importantly, that these are communicated well, not only at the recruitment phase, but also consistently throughout each year of employment. Now, moving on to the next question. So, has the view changed from pre-pandemic times? It did provide a spread of options, right from no, not at all, through to yes, definitely healthcare. So again, we are seeing very common themes, much more traditional benefit demands within this population. One of the employees makes a really interesting point regarding technology. Now, mid-career employees, such as myself, we're not tech natives. They've adapted to technology as a result of the pandemic. Slightly embarrassingly, I was also someone who submitted health cash plan claims by the old-fashioned paper route. And now I've evolved, as have my colleagues, to use my phone for the whole process. And Really, I wouldn't now even consider printing a claim form off and posting it somewhere that it might get lost in the post. So it's not just health cash plans for claims. Private medical providers have digital online pathways for helping people with acute medical conditions. Having technology incorporated into the communication strategy through the use of total reward statements and online benefit information is now really an expectation for this group rather than just a nice to have. But be warned, whilst expectations can be high, this group can also easily become very frustrated and highly vocal within your workforce if things aren't working or functioning seamlessly, or if something's been structured incorrectly or communicated incorrectly. This question again demonstrates how we need to think about our workers as individuals, and that the contract of employment that they have with you is a two-way commitment of this relationship. Now, Adrian, how have you seen employee requirements in this population change over the last few years?
Well, again, I really wanted to agree with you and echo your kind of an hour because we're in the mid part of our career. Our experience of being forced to accept technology, which we wouldn't have done pre-pandemic, but it's kind of empowering that we've been given a little bit of, and this is true of the groups that we come across, that we've been empowered and been given the confidence to use more online services, as opposed to pre-pandemic, we would have stuck our, drawn a line in the sand and said, I want to do it my way, and I want this presenting to me. So, even in my roles dramatically changed from doing 30,000 miles a year driving around to physically see everybody, to, more based here from home and delivering these webinars as we do from here. So I do still think, though, that we need to physically tell people how to do things. So we do give them the confidence when we actually sit here and talk to them and show them on screen, how the electronic functions work and where they can get the further information from. And just with a little bit of information, they're then empowered to go off and do the rest of it themselves. So if we do tell them, they will use it. And if we show them how things work, then they'll feel much more comfortable with it. So the communication part of it is key, I think. But yeah, our roles have changed dramatically, haven't we? And we spend a lot of time talking like this rather than face to face and drinking coffee.
Okay. So look, when looking at the final question, it is fair to say that our own workers have a good understanding of typical benefits offered due to their job role and our industry. But their expectation of the range of core benefits is much greater than the early career demographic and much more traditional. This may be partly due to the fact that population quite often have kids and family commitments, and they want their families to be protected as well as having time off to spend with them. I think it was really interesting to note employee 3's response in relation to holiday time, though. We've seen a number of our clients launch buy-only holiday schemes over the last few years. So this is where employees take a reduction in salary to purchase extra days off during the year. With employees being able to purchase this extra holiday, it can be really, really engaging, as well as it providing cost savings from your employer perspective in terms of the 13.8% employer national insurance savings that are generated from a holiday buy scheme. However, part-time workers can indeed find it difficult to use all of their holiday, especially when they have generous leave entitlements already as part of their contract. And the fact they are part-time may mean that they have the right level of work-life balance. In this instance, the employee would ideally really want a little more money instead of losing unused holiday. So why not make sure that you have a complementary holiday sell option scheme so that employees can cater for their personal circumstances, part-time, full-time workers across the organisation. Good pension contributions came up in all responses. Expectations are greater than early career, which is perhaps a strong reason to build a matching or a tiered structure into your pension option arrangement. Having a matching basis allows employees to tailor their savings package to their needs, whilst employers aren't having to increase and pay huge contributions to those who don't value pension contributions. The mid-career population may also have significant gaps in terms of their long-term savings. Auto-enrolment feels like it's been here forever, but it was only introduced 10 years ago, and maybe less for smaller employers. And when it was introduced initially, it was a really, really low level of contributions required. We have seen employer pension contributions increase. I've referenced before, Alan Jones' survey 22 noted that for professional workers, the average employer contribution is 5%, just over 5% of basic pay. So make sure you have the basics right, but have a consideration as to whether there is an opportunity to introduce a choice with this benefit on top of a core level. The secret really in this population is to have a strong core benefit package, but with good voluntary choices. Often core benefits across a business cost less than a huge pay rise. Therefore, budgeting for benefits can be a way to offset the spiraling salary inflation. Adrian, what have you found in terms of requests from this population for the ideal situation?
Well, I guess because we're on the second webinar of the three, I wanted to draw a little bit of a comparison to the earlier group in their early career, in that we heard a lot about pay and more pay and keeping up with the cost of living and pay in the first one. Whereas with this particular mid-career group, ours at Matthew Hollywood's been no different to the general workplace. There is now more of a vision of total reward that's been built into the employee's mind. And so it is having fair pay and fair benefits, which is generally the way in which they approach their package and how they're remunerated for the job that they do. I've already mentioned this again, but if we ask employees what they want, they'll just give us a massive long wish list of things to do, and things like private medical insurance and healthcare are at the fore of people's minds, just because of the political circumstances that we find ourselves in after post-pandemic, and obviously with the news that we have about the NHS and how it's performing at the moment. So things like healthcare are back on the table as far as what employees might want. But overall, this generation, and I really want to emphasize the point, have one eye on the future. So, pensions and saving and long-term financial planning are always going to figure quite highly with this group. I think we're less interested in topics and subjects like debt and borrowing, because by this point, in the mid-career, you have a plan to pay off debts over time, like mortgages, or, our short-term borrowing is under control. Mid-career employees are more likely to stick with their employer if they perceive that they've got a long-term strategy for looking after themselves, and can see that they can, have a pathway towards being able to afford their retirement and their life after full-time employment. Because retirement these days isn't just, finishing on a Friday with a carriage clock or a wristwatch being awarded to you and then you head off into the sunset. It is now more a general move from full-time into part-time, into full retirement over a long period of time. But I do want to underline that this generation do know that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. So they're not like the younger generation where they're going to flick from employer to employer to get a little bit of extra money to get a pay rise. They are more interested in that total reward package, and they are more interested in having a route towards being able to pay for themselves later in life as part of that long-term financial planning. Yeah. So I hope that's of interest as observations of this group.
Yeah. I'm very conscious of time as well. We want to open up to questions shortly. Just a couple of points, really. 2 employees raised about total reward and the visibility of the benefit package as an important feature. Knowing where they can find the appropriate information at the time that they need it and being able to ask questions is an essential part of structuring a good benefit package. As with early career, using a range of communications options to support the group is essential. whilst mid-career, as I say, we're not tech natives. Our ability to use technology is certainly improved for most, but just don't assume that means they can consume benefit information via technology. Yes, it's an essential base through which to communicate, but nothing beats face-to-face. I think, Adrian, you've obviously made that clear throughout. Have you got any further comments in that context?
Not really. Just that for the mid-career group, you need to do two things at once: is to have an online presence so that they can go online and research and read and do it, but it has to be married up with some kind of a face-to-face delivery, and that's what keeps me busy most of the time. Is not selling things and not pushing a product or a service. Is just helping people to understand the mechanics of how something works. So they know what the product does in general, but they need the technical detail in the mid-career. So they do want to know the additional benefits that are under the umbrella of a main benefit. So if you buy a main benefit and it comes with a free employee assistance program, or it comes with a free virtual GP service or something like that, those are the interesting bits. Those are the bits that the mid-career people want to know. So there isn't a one size fits all. This is a very different group with very different aspirations and different pressures from generations above and below. So it's something for everyone that we need to find on this group.
Yeah. Thank you, Adrian. So I hope that's been useful and it's provided some insight on tailoring benefits for employees in their mid-careers. Let's open now to questions. We can see if we've had any in.
I can tell you, Hannah, that a couple of people have popped comments in the sidebar, but they've been asking for a copy of the first webinar to be sent over to them. So I do want to say, when we've finished with this one and we've got the information from this one uploaded to the system, we will get a copy of the first webinar sent over to you. We've got your email addresses as part of the signing in process, so we can send them straight over to you after this, for those that have requested it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I have to say the early career one was really insightful and very, very different to the demands and needs of this population. If any of you are interested on hearing the results and anecdotal matters concerning late career, keeping those valuable people in the workforce, then again, our final webinar in a series of 3 is in a couple of weeks' time. And Misha will be sending out invites to that shortly if you haven't already booked on that. So thank you very much for listening today. If you had any questions after, by all means direct them back to Misha at PayCheck. And over to you, Misha.
Thank you, and thank you both so much for today. I found it really useful and insightful, just like the first one. So oh, I think we have just had a question through, if you want to answer it now or if you want to refer back. Literally just come through before we close off.
Yeah. So Hannah, if you can see it.
Yeah, so the question that's come in, and what are popular new benefits rather than the traditional core? I think mid-career, they do like voluntary options. So again, having the core elements established is absolutely essential for this population, but having options that they can tailor. So, voluntary arrangements that can allow them to buy, sell, holiday, setting up facilities where they can purchase tech or mobile phones or laptops through a payroll deduction mechanism. That's really popular. Anything to do with well-being. So if you have quite a competitive workforce, some of the app technology that's coming through that can either be bolted on to traditional core benefits, such as a Vitality private medical arrangement or ULife, with competitive apps where people can do mini competitions against each other within the workforce. They're popular as well, to get people A, engaged, but B, making healthy choices about physical or mental or eating and that kind of thing. So yeah, really, really popular arrangements. So having good voluntary options. I think also for this population, having flexible options in terms of those core benefits as well. So Adrian talked about employees wanting to perhaps purchase an extra bit of life cover or critical illness cover so that they can cover a full mortgage amount, is a really, really good option to have. allowing them to add family members and that kind of thing, if you've got healthcare benefits in any way, shape or form there too. So yeah, thank you.
There was just one last question before we go. As I think it was around flexibility in requesting better percentage contributions from the employer, and presume that relates to pensions. And are there benefits to the employer to offer better contributions?
Yeah, okay, so really good question there as well. There has been a race to the bottom with auto enrolment. So whereas typically good employers provided very generous pension packages, and I am going back like 20 years, so you might have had final salary schemes available to staff, or decent levels of contributions, 10% above employer, 10% of basic pay and above, were quite common themes. With auto enrolment, there's been a race to the bottom. So 3% employer, 4% employer, 5% employer contributions. Now, is there a benefit? Well, for this population, if they're coming from a different employer and they've had a decent scheme to one that doesn't, you know, there's a hygiene factor there in terms of actually the contribution amounts. But if an employer allows them to voluntarily move up the scale, typically most people will stay at the default level, i.e. the minimum, but the people that want extra contributions will really value that. And any contribution, if an employer is good and has salary exchange in place for pension contributions, the employer will be making savings of 13.8% on any extra pension contribution that the employee makes. So there are tax efficiencies also for making extra pension contributions. Normal employer extra pension contributions are very tax efficient for the company too. So yeah. Definitely consider bringing in a tier. You wouldn't expect everybody to suddenly go to the highest tier, whereas if you put it in for everyone, a higher amount for all, then some people won't value that, and that's quite costly for employers to do so. Yeah, if anybody else wants to, or if anybody wants to discuss that in a bit more depth, then I'm more than happy to, you know, come via Misha and we can talk that in more depth with you.
Amazing, thank you, Hannah. So yeah, as Hannah said, if there is anything you would like to follow up with Mattioli Woods, then please reach out to me and I can introduce you to Hannah and you can get in touch with her and discuss anything further. But thank you all for dialing in and listening this morning. We hope that you found it useful. And yeah, we hope to see you on the next one, which is in a couple of weeks' time. But take care, everyone. Hope you have a good day. And thank you again, Hannah and Adrian.
Brilliant. Thanks, Misha.
You're welcome.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.